So this is the Board of Health meeting of November 16th, 2022. And we have Kat, Garrett, Arlene, and Wim so far, and we're expecting Noreen, I think. And we have a guest, Tom Seifert. I don't know if, Tom, if you have anything to ask us, please unmute yourself now. And if you don't, you can stay muted.
Thanks. No, I hope you're all doing well.
What's new, anybody?
That's new.
Nothing?
No.
Well, that's probably a good thing, right? Well, maybe we should just get started and Noreen will join us, or maybe we should call Noreen. Do you think she forgot?
She doesn't seem like the forgetful type.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I can text her.
Why don't you do that?
All right.
And we can go ahead and like approve last minute's meeting,
Okay. I'll
meeting
text her
minutes.
while we're talking.
So minutes of last meeting, any objection to accepting them as written? Are there any emendations?
I will move to approve. Garrett Simonson.
Second, Wim.
All in favor? Garrett?
Arlene, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Wim, yes.
And obviously Kat, yes. So there we go. I've got the regulation, talk about the regulation. Oh, here's Miriam. Miriam, did you have something to tell us, or are you just here to listen?
I'm just here to listen.
Okay. Okay, let's skip the regulation part for now and move on to the bake sale rules. Arlene brought to my attention something that we learned earlier this year, and that is when you have a bake sale, you are supposed to, and it's the typical bake sale where it's by donation and it's to profit to the benefit of a nonprofit organization. They don't have to have a licensed home kitchen. On the other hand, they do have to have a sign stating that the foods for sale were not baked in a licensed home kitchen. So, yes, ma'am.
Can I just share a screen? Which
Please.
has
Oh.
the verbiage of two simple regulations that apply. All right.
Mhm. Okay.
Here we go. I have it ready to go. Okay. I think you should all be able to see this. Is that right?
Yes.
Interestingly, I can't. So let me go to see if I can do so. Anyway, you can see it. I can't. No. I know why. I know why. Okay. Do I need a permit? So the food has to be not time or temperature controlled for safety. And the consumer is informed by a clearly visible placard at the location that the food's been prepared in a kitchen that is not subject to regulation and inspection. So as far as I know, we have not been prompting Marianne or anyone else to display such a placard.
We did ask the athletic club to display one, and they did. And I
good.
have
Okay.
and I have since told Marianne that we need to do this and just add it to their impedimenta for bake sales.
Right.
And as far as the refrigeration thing goes, it's kind of moot, isn't it? Because nobody prepares high hazard foods for bake sales. It's all
Yeah,
brownies.
you never know if somebody's going to come and bring a little piece of mini or a bunch of mini quiches or something like that.
Mhm.
Because no restrictions have been conveyed to the potential donors. And
Right.
so that just has to be assured one way or the other, either by way of what's conveyed by the organization when they invite donations,
Yeah.
or, you know, when it's checked at the time of arrival. But one way or the other, there needs to be nothing time or temperature controlled available. And number two, a placard has to be obvious. Okay.
Okay. Who has big sales besides the library? Anybody? I mean, does the PTO or any of that?
I would guess
Um,
PTO and maybe the church.
Yeah, I don't,
Where-
the thing is, I don't know that we can predict in the future who might have a bake sale, right?
What I'm trying to think of is how we might disseminate these rules. Right? I mean, should we just put something out on town announce so that anybody who's planning to have a bake sale will be aware of these? I mean, we can put it also on the website.
When I looked at other boards of health, they were worded as guidelines as opposed to rules or regulations. Um, and
Well,
so
they're not regulations for sure, but it seems to me they're pretty much rules by DPH, right, Arlene? And these aren't discretionary.
Correct. Right.
So what we should get is the actual legal citation.
And the citation is, if you're still able to see my screen,
Yeah,
the MGL citation is at the bottom.
oh, okay, great. I don't understand why there are so many.
I know, nor do I.
Okay, I'll look into it. I think we have it elsewhere anyway.
Okay.
Arlene,
Okay.
and everyone, I'm sorry to be late, it's Noreen, but can you tell me what prompted this concern or this?
Yes, there was a big to-do on Nextdoor in which a person wanted to know if the Board of Health had licensed or inspected the kitchens of all those people who contributed to the election day bake sale.
Oh,
And in
response-
fact, this person was convinced that we had, because we wouldn't let anybody use a home kitchen without being inspected. But what she was thinking of was licensing a home kitchen for commercial use.
Right.
right.
So this was all in response to a post on Nextdoor by Marianne, thanking the community for their collective efforts toward the successful bake sale at Election Day in Town Hall. And then this kerfuffle happened in reply to Marianne's post.
Right, I only knew about it. I mean, you had alluded to it, Arlene, but I didn't know where it was. I only found out about it because I wanted to find out how much they made, which was a small fortune considering.
Mhm.
And then there's all this stuff. And I only got involved in it really because I was very irritated at this person who doesn't even like us presuming to speak for the Board of Health.
Mhm.
So.
All right.
Thank
All right,
you.
if I stop sharing, anyone need this up for any longer?
No, it's good.
Okay.
Thanks. I'll get it from elsewhere.
If anyone would like the link to that post, I can forward it, send it along.
Yeah, if you could do that, and then I'll follow it up and we'll put it
I
up.
sent it to you, Kat, the day that I alerted you to this.
Oh, okay, I'll look
The
back
link
for
to
it.
the original post was in that email.
Okay,
There's
I will find it.
I'm sorry, Garrett, what?
Kat, there's a question from Tom.
Todd, go ahead.
Um, Thank you. I was wondering, would those regulations apply to the Shutesbury Athletic Club actually? I also wanted to know if you have a procedure in place for verifying the not-for-profit status of any organization, and whether the athletic club's serving of time or temperature-dependent food is relevant to this discussion, please.
Had a long discussion about this with our health agents and with the club. The rules are similar for the Friday night or the erstwhile Friday night members' dinners, except that they were considered potlucks. And they were found to be exempt from the need for permitting.
I've
I'm
not
not
been
sure.
able to find
Go
any
ahead.
lock reference in Massachusetts general laws.
I beg your pardon?
I've not been able to find any potluck reference in Massachusetts general laws.
Tell you the truth, I don't have it right in front of me. I could possibly find it again.
And I don't know if that would, it just seemed as though what Arlene just shared would be the exact reference to go with.
I think that there was another one, but I don't have it in front of me. Charlie provided it for us. Wait, there was another thing that I wanted to answer. I have in fact seen verification of the nonprofit status of the athletic club.
Could you share that with us, please?
I don't have it in front of me. It's called Chapter 180, and it's a Massachusetts designation. It's not tax exempt status. It's simply not-for-profit status.
Right, but that would be IRS granted, not Massachusetts granted.
No, it's Massachusetts granted.
Not according to the Attorney General in Massachusetts. They need an IRS determination letter.
Wherever it came from, they have it.
Would you be willing to share that, please?
Send me an email and ask for it. And I believe that I may have it in my files.
I believe you might be referring to a Secretary of State annual report, which is self-described information sent to them by the corporation, but is not verification.
The topic of discussion tonight is not the athletic club. So if you have specific questions, will you please submit them to me in writing, and I will do my best to answer them.
Okay.
But right now, I would like to go on.
Okay.
And could you uncheck your hand up? Thanks.
Catherine, Chief Burgess has joined us and she has a question.
Hello, Kristen. You're muted.
Or maybe just turn up your volume.
Well, the mute,
Muted.
there you go.
There she is.
So sorry. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I saw this on the calendar and I have yet to be to one of these meetings yet. And I wanted to just, come and say hi. But Catherine, I just wanted to give you a hand there real quick. It's implementation of Chapter 230 of the Acts of 2014. It's an act relative to the potluck events. So that can potentially be some reading that pertains to what you were stating in that it's exempt for potlucks.
And what was that chapter?
Yes, it is Chapter 230 of the
230.
Act 2014. An act. It's called an act relative to potluck events. It was put into mass.gov October 2014. So it basically states exactly what you were saying, that it is exempt from the regulations per the Board of Health.
Thank you, Kristen. That's very much appreciated.
My pleasure. I just figured I actually was reading earlier about that, but yeah.
Cool. Would you like to join the Board of Health?
Thanks. I have plenty on my plate right now.
I bet you do. I bet you do. Did you have anything that you were coming to the meeting for, or are you just hanging out?
No, I was just going to hang out, and then I actually was remembering that I had just read about that because of the library stuff and it was intriguing.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, if you could check your, hand up one thing so that
Take
you're
your
not
hand down,
asking,
in other words.
right,
There you go.
there you go. Okay,
Kat, may I just talk to Kristen for 1 second?
of course.
This is Noreen. Hi, Kristen. It's Noreen Pease, and I had talked to you a little bit about the Public Health Excellence Grant, and I want to let you know that it has been approved through Greenfield. And I've been trying to send you emails, and I've had difficulty. So I'd love to touch base with you personally and update you on what's going on with that grant if we can set up a time.
Absolutely, Noreen. I'll be in tomorrow and I'll send you an email so to make sure that we're not having any email difficulty.
That would be great. Thanks so much.
Noreen, is there anything you want to tell about the Public Health Excellent Grant right now?
No, we really don't have any updates beyond what I've already mentioned. Other than we're just awaiting the monies, and we will be, the job descriptions are written up for public health nurse and health agent. And I think as soon as the monies are deposited, we'll start searching for people to fill those roles, although there are some people who have expressed interest, which is good news for us.
So you said public health nurse and health agent. Those
Correct.
Are those the only ones they're planning to fill at present, or?
I believe so. There may be some contractual money. I don't remember exactly what's in the budget, but there may be some contractual monies for an epidemiologist, and there is one who is on board part-time in Greenfield, and they were planning to give that person some more, time,
Mhm.
epidemiology time.
Okay, can we move on? While we're talking about various complaints, an individual sent us an email saying she thought the textile recycling bin should be removed because it's on a contaminated site and people shouldn't be walking on it. And I understand that this person also sent the same request to the select board, and the select board declined to reply because it was so far-fetched. What's your feeling about that? Should we let it drop or should we reply?
There's no evidence that there's a hazard from walking to that clothing drop box, is there?
Well, no, and I mean, really, the point is there's not any real contamination there at all.
No.
And if their concern is about contamination reaching the textiles that are deposited in that bin, there's no, there are not worries about.
No, the concern expressed was, I don't think people should be walking on it.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So
I think we've learned from national politics that it's often better not to engage with things that
Yeah.
are not verifiable.
Hmm.
What's commonly called fake news now.
mhm.
Agreed.
So why take it up a notch? If it's our prerogative to not answer, I would not.
Is that the sense of the meeting?
I just don't know what our commitment to replying to every, what has been our commitment to replying to everybody who petitions us with one query or another in our email.
Kat Miriam has her hand raised.
Miriam, go ahead.
Hi. I just a couple of comments. One is that I don't know who you're referring to. Someone also contacted the Conservation Commission with a very similar complaint.
Probably the same person.
And we declined to explore this because it's really not our jurisdiction. But I would just caution everybody about using the term fake news with regard to what may or may not be on Lotto 32. That site's under investigation. There is a reporting to the state of some contamination on the site. And we don't really know. I agree that, in my opinion, and I'm not an expert, but walking from your car to that bin does not seem, highly dangerous. Probably greater risk going to the gas station and having gasoline splashing on my shoes. But that's neither here nor there. I just, I think we need to just be careful about our language because, the jury is out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So I take it the sense of the meeting here is not to reply. Okay, hearing no objection to that, I will assume that that's our thing. All right, I went to a district meeting this afternoon and we are still working on getting that situation normalized so that Claudia can be properly compensated and properly covered by insurance and health insurance and so on. It seems to be taking a kind of a different turn, but it may result in the dissolution of the district as we have it now, and its replacement with a different structure, but it will still be pretty much the same thing that we have now. So that's still a bit up in the air. On the way back home from that, I stopped off at a site visit that Miriam was leading at the Fisk Brook culvert, having to do with a new beaver dam being put in, and that is the subject of the email that I forwarded to you, in case you want any information about that. Obviously, our involvement in beaver management is very minimal. We have I should say, anybody who wants to do anything to beavers has to get a permit from us. Although at this point in the year, anyone with a license could trap a beaver without a permit from the Board of Health. As far as, and maybe Miriam, you know this, what about breaching beaver dams? Does that require a permit or an order from us year round?
I believe so.
That's what I think too.
There's no season for that.
No dam breaching
Not like a
season.
hunting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, you can keep us posted on whatever happens.
I hope I captured the discussion accurately. I just wanted to.
I missed most of it because I was late getting there.
Yeah,
so
just
I'll have to assume that you
summarized
did.
Okay.
So that leaves, as far as I know, the green burial regulation. I have not really done anything significant with this, except I've been asking around to find out if there are any town regulations, any municipal regulations anywhere in the Commonwealth, and apparently there are not. Charlie didn't know of any, and he'd done some significant research into it. So we're a little bit on our own. We have our well regulations, so that kind of gives us a template to work in. But as far as filling in the pieces, we haven't gotten that far yet. Garrett, we had mentioned that you might be able to talk to Andrew Kelly with some questions that we had. Have you been able to reach him?
I have not, but what I did want to talk about, so one, I wondered if we had any further updates from JCA on where they're at with their process, and then also wanted to discuss with the board what seems to be, so we sort of have a parallel process going on now where we're dealing with the issue of the JCA and the abutting property owners, but also considering putting forth local regulation related to the siting of future cemeteries that may look to do green burial practice.
And also any green burial practice, which would include home burial and converting any portion of existing cemeteries to green burial.
Right. So as it relates to that piece of, new properties or existing properties or homeowner, it seems like we need to come up with what our process is going to be for doing that. And if it's a joint process with the cemetery commission. And then as it relates to the JCA, I just wanted to try to understand if we've heard any further information about where they're at with their process, working with the abutters to develop a site plan.
We haven't heard anything from them recently because they seem to be having very poor success getting a response from abutters. I think it may be because their letter was not very informative. I took it upon myself to contact some of the other abutters. So I secured permission from one of the people across the street, and I have letters out to the two others. And as far as the other adjacent abutter on the same side of the street, I did contact her and ask her to consider it. And I think JCA was going to reach out to her again directly. I think your idea of working with the cemetery commission is a good one.
It sort of feels to me like we have to pursue this in a parallel fashion.
Mm-hmm.
That we have to continue to work with JCA and the abutters to reach conclusions about what makes sense at that site, and that as we think about either future sites or sites that are potentially going to integrate green burial or home burials, a process for establishing regulation there, local regulation.
How will we go about thinking about that? I mean, where do we start?
So I guess that we would want to begin by, we've already engaged the cemetery commission to a degree with talking with Dina about green burial practice. But I think that's kind of our starting place, and certainly town council should be involved in those conversations from a legal perspective. But I think we would want to, and I don't know what's required for forming, sort of a joint group of a board and a commission to pursue local regulation. I don't know if we have to seek select board approval for that, or.
Well, that's an interesting question. We could have a joint meeting with the cemetery commission. We would not have to have, I don't think we'd have to have anybody's approval for that. As long as both boards posted the meeting legally, we can do that. And that might be one way of getting started, or we might form a sort of intramural committee with maybe one or two from the Board of Health, one or two from Cemetery Commission, and whoever else we think is would be helpful.
This is Noreen, just a little different take. Is there any way we could or should get any background information from someone who might be an expert in what the impact of a decomposing body might be on local groundwater? Or is there any way to know, other than what already exists in state regulation, as to what we should or should not be concerned about?
There's plenty of information out there. I was just talking with Charlie Konecki about it today, and he, in his opinion, basically all the contaminants that come with a human body are going to be confined to about a foot away from that body. I also asked him, the big question for me is, if we were concerned about contamination and we wanted to test wells for it, what would we test for? And he said, well, bacteria and salts, I guess, but he couldn't really come up with much of anything. He did dismiss, without my bringing it up, dismiss the idea that diseases could be passed from bodies through soil into groundwater and into people's wells, and then causing disease.
So it sounds like the opinion is that we have the expertise that we need already to develop this regulation.
We have access to it. There's more reading and things that we can be doing, but I think we have access to all the information we need. Garrett
Great.
sent around a really interesting document, and there are some other interesting things that we'll put together so we can be well read on it before we start doing this. When I talked to Donna originally, we talked about trying to get this done by the end of the year, but that's just not going to happen.
Right.
I think I mentioned before, but I'll mention again. We are not required, because this is not a septic system regulation, we are not required to have a public hearing, but I think we should have one, just so that people can come out and have their say, and we can consider anything that they have to say. Arlene, you put your hand up.
Yes, thanks. I appreciated the document that you sent around, Garrett, with some of the evidence gathered based on the burial of farm animals that's been going on for a long. There was a lot of there were many conclusions drawn from that sort of experience. What I did not see any reference to, and what concerns me a little bit more than disease entities, is if a person has been through chemotherapy and has died as a result of their disease, but the chemotherapeutic agents are still in their system, then what happens to those? Is there any concern raised around those? And I just haven't seen any reference to that.
I had a conversation with Dina a few days ago, and that came up. I can't remember if she gave any specific information about that, but she said that stuff just does not travel far through the soil. And most things,
that the soil is an effective filter.
Yeah, the soil is an extremely effective filter for contaminants of just about every kind. Chris, go ahead.
Hi there. It's Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Thank you again for having this be an open meeting. And I did just want to mention again, in the Berkshires, they don't allow bodies that have had radiation. So that's one thing. And I'm not sure.
We are not governed by what they do in the Berkshires.
Right. I'm just saying, but they do that for a reason, because there is I'm not sure what, but we can pursue that. But okay.
But we don't know how well founded their decision is.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
I would think if a cadaver had implantable rods for radiation for suppression of like prostate cancer, those would be removed in
Right, that would be a
body
really different thing, yeah.
is prepared. Yeah, I mean that radiation or chemotherapy is one thing, but it raises the question of medication in general. I mean, people die, they are on a regimen of medications for a variety of treatments. Who knows? What
Here's
happens?
here's the thing, Wim, this is the thing I keep coming back to. All of these things are also present in septic systems.
Exactly.
And we have rules about the setbacks from septic systems
Exactly.
that would septic
Protect.
systems which are so much larger and more
Right.
toxic than a single body.
Yeah.
So yes, while these things
Wow.
are concerning, we have to put them into this larger context of what else we safely apparently put into the ground, because in all the time that Arlene and I have been on the Board of Health, we have not seen a contamination of a well by a septic system. Am I right?
Oh, you got me there. Not that I can recall.
Sure, we
But,
have.
but yeah, and you're absolutely right that a live person who is dealing with either radiation or chemotherapy is excreting some degree of those agents either in their urine or feces. So it is going into the septic system as while they're alive, and our setbacks do take that
Yeah.
into account.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the next thing we should do in moving toward a regulation?
Can we just draft the bones of it and then we'd have something to bring to a joint meeting?
Okay, I think we can. We made a list last week of the things that, or 2 weeks ago, the things that should be included.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
so I think the bones of the regulation come from basically from what DEP has already outlined.
Mhm.
And I think we've identified in this meeting that that's something that we are probably not going to get to by the end of this year. So I wonder if we could first focus on the JCA and the abutters and figuring out our next steps there, and then look at the next steps for the regulation.
I see your point. To me, they're kind of going hand in hand, and of course, there's a little lag there now while they are trying to meet our other requirements for the survey, for example. So it's not like we don't have anything to do on that particular topic, you know. While we're waiting for them, we could perhaps be trying to move on a little bit.
So I think what my point is that I'd like for us to figure out how we can help the JCA to advance their process, and then look at advancing a regulatory process.
Okay, so to your mind, what's the next thing we should do?
So we have outlined for the JCA the information that we would like to have from them in order for us to make a determination about whether or not we would consider modifying setback requirements. And I guess I feel like until we have that information, it's hard for us to make a determination on that site, but also hard to inform what we might do in a regulatory fashion for other sites.
The thing is, obviously, we want whatever kind of determination we make about this particular case to be in line with our eventual regulation. Right?
With the exception being that with each individual site that's under consideration for green burial, the site itself and the nature of the geology of the site and the soil composition, all of that's going to factor into the determination that's made about green burial at that site. So
Right.
each individual site's going to be unique, I think.
Right, but we'll want to have certain parameters. We'll want to have a limit, an absolute limit of how close it can be. Right, if we give a variance, obviously for a new facility, we would probably want to go with the DEP guidelines. But for an existing facility, or unless there was a good reason to give a variance for an existing facility, we would want to keep our right to issue variances up to a certain point. And so we would want to make sure we have some consistency in our process, in our rules. So it's, making a regulation is a slow and difficult thing. So I'm inclined to, whatever else we do, to start trying to kind of hack through the bare bones of a regulation and try to bring it back to you next meeting. Meanwhile, and it would be fairly blank, I think, right? We would have specific details that we would want to hammer out, right? We're talking about basically set up, how do we approach it in a regulation? Because it's not clear to me how soon we're going to hear back from JCA, and I wouldn't want to hold up our process while we're waiting for them. What more, Garrett, do you think we could be or should be doing to help us with this JCA case? Right, so that when they come back with their survey, would we want to have done more things, find out more stuff, whatever, to be ready for that moment? There's some prep that you think we should be doing.
From my perspective, it would just be helpful to know where they're at in the process. And it sounds like, Kat, you've done outreach. When we met with the senator's office, Chris and Lisa, I asked if there was potential for you to do outreach to your neighbors to help for the process. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can help empower the neighbors and JCA to get the Board of Health the information that we need in order to make some decisions on the matter that is right in front of us.
Well, we know, one thing that we know is that they have not completed the survey yet, because we know they don't have the permissions yet. So we know that basically the fact-finding part of our requirements is simply not there yet. Okay, I can ask Sam to report, but I'm assuming that he doesn't have anything to report, and that's not why we're not hearing from him. Chris and Lisa, do you have your hand up, or is that from before?
Yeah, I just wanted to answer Garrett's question. I did do outreach a couple days ago. I just dropped off a letter. Nobody was home. I just dropped a letter, just summarize what was going on. And I encouraged them to do two things. One, respond to the JCA letter. And second, if they wanted to attend the Board of Health meeting. just to get up to speed.
Great,
Okay.
thanks, Chris.
Is there more we want to say about this tonight?
I have no more.
Garrett, if you can come up with more informational stuff for us, that would be good. And I think Dina has some stuff also that we can be looking into, and I'll try to get hold of that.
I will continue to research it, and I think it would just be helpful for us to keep this as a standing agenda item.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Agreed.
So do we have any unanticipated business or any reports or anything anybody wants to talk about? Hearing none, Chris is.
Thank you.
Chris is-
Thank
oh,
you.
you-
Say good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, hearing no unanticipated business, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Oh, there you go.
Okay,
Arlene,
okay, all in favor?
Arlene, yes.
I don't think we have to get really formal about
Yes.
it in this case. Yes, just yes,
Yes.
yes. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank
One
you.
one question, our next meeting is not until the 7th of December, correct?
That sounds right.
That's right.
First
Okay.
Wednesday, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Good night.